Tov. Good afternoon. The topic, as you can see here, is Parshat HaShavua. It's about conversion in Parshat HaShavua, really. Parshat HaShavua, of course, we have Matan Torah at Har Sinai. And the question is, how does a convert feel about Matan Torah? Because, in some ways, the Har Sinai is the beginning of everything for the Jewish people. At the Talmud Yerushalmi, I mentioned it before, the Rambam quotes it, that the revelation at Sinai and the lead up to it essentially was the pattern for conversion for all ages. Because the entire Jewish people converted. They had Brit Milah as they left Egypt. It says that they washed. They had to wash and get ready for Matan Torah. And then they had Kabbalat Ol Mitzvot. Naaseh v'nishma. And so those are the three critical features of conversion. And so essentially all the Jewish people converted, except for converts who were not there at the time of Matan Torah. So they're missing out on what is perhaps if you can on a page, Israel, would you like to take a picture? And if you sit over there, it'd be better for me, so I wouldn't have to turn my head so much. Okay, thank you. The converts come later, come after Matan Torah. They weren't there at the big experience, and they weren't part of Am Yisrael at this formative session. Literally, that was the formation of the Jewish people. So there's a few midrashim, and you might be aware that sometimes midrashim contradict each other. That's the beauty of Judaism. There's such a wide range of opinions and attitudes. We like to say, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. These and those are the words of the living God. And both approaches have something to teach us. Some, it's like, what color is this over here? It's not black and it's not white. It's gray. So if you say black, you're correct. And if you say white, you're also correct. There's an element. So there's elements of our attitude towards Gerim. What I want to show, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll see it very soon, that in both of the sides of the coin, in both perspectives, the attitude towards the convert is basically, it's like those, you have dolls, where you push them this way, push them that way. Somehow they always come out on top. They always come out standing straight. All of the midrashim, whether they say that the Gerim were present at Har Sinai or they weren't present at Har Sinai, the midrashim are coming to say that how beloved are the converts. And we'll start. We'll see some of the midrashim together, and then a few thoughts for conclusion. The first midrash is from Yalkut Shimoni in Parashat Bo, which was last week's parsha. This is just an excerpt. It actually discusses three types of converts. The converts that are no good. I don't want to focus on those. There are some that are coming and for the wrong reasons, or they're not sincere. But we're going to focus on the third convert. The third converts in the name of God. He's considered like a native-born Jew. And moreover, he's even considered like a Levite. As the verse says, and the Levite shall come, etc., and the convert. So together with the Levim, it says that the convert comes. And so the Ger gets the status of a Levi. Listen to this midrash. Upon hearing this verse, Moshe Rabbeinu inquired of God. What tribe was he from? Obviously. Is the convert considered in your eyes like a Levite? He was a little offended. This is what, Levi. You might think this was written today. Many born Jews feel that they have the right, that they are the holders of the Judaism. We are the real Jews. What is this convert coming and being treated? Not only you want to treat him like Israel, but be treated like royalty, like the special part of the Jewish people, like a Levite. And God replied, he is great in my eyes. for he converted for the sake of my name. He grew up in a foreign land and came by his own will. Thus, I adore him. I remind you, we saw the midrash about the deer that was part of the flock, decided to join the flock of the shepherd. The king had a flock, and together with his sheep and goats, one day a deer joined them, and he behaved like a sheep. He went in to the pen together with them, and he went out to graze with them in the morning, and he was so unique, so different, but he wanted to be part of the king's flock, and the king loved him more dearly than any of the sheep and the goats that he had. And they asked the king, why? Why do you love him so much? He said, well, he had so many options. He left the great expanses of the desert and came in to be part of my flock. So too, this is similar expression here in this midrash. He grew up in a foreign land and came by his own will. Thus I adore him. Now comes the punchline. How much did I exert myself for Israel? It's almost like God is saying that I worked so hard. I took them out of Egypt and appeared before them, gave them the man to eat, gave them the quails, gave them well springs and the clouds of glory until they accepted my Torah. I had to do all these miracles for them. I had to provide for them. I had to convince them. I had to entice them. Perhaps I had to bribe them in some ways for them. Finally, they said, okay, Naseh v'nishma. They accepted the Torah. But the convert comes on his own volition. Therefore, he is considered in my eyes as one of the native-born Jews and a Levite. Even more than a native-born Jew, he's special. He gets extra special appreciation. And the appreciation is shown, according to this midrash, by being on the level of the Leviim, which is, the chosen tribe, where the Kohanim are from, and Moshe Rabbeinu was from. So as I said, clearly this midrash is based on the idea that the convert was not there. He did not eat the man. He did not eat the quail. He did not have the clouds of glory. He didn't have this sound and light show that all the Jewish people had. They didn't have the gifts that they were given. Like I said, it's like almost God was, we said it's like a marriage. We say many times that the relationship between God and the Jewish people is like a marriage. The Torah is like the marriage contract. And so you give gifts to your fiance. You give gifts to your bride. And so all the Jews, they got all these gifts. And that's why they accepted the Torah. But the convert, he was not there. He was not shown anything. He was not given anything. You could say he didn't see the miracles. He came out of his own will. And this is what the Midrash says. The Tanchuma says very similarly, Amar lehem Rav Shimon ben Lakish, Chaviv hager lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, min otan achlosin she'amdu al Har Sinai. Clearly it states here that the convert was not at Sinai. But he is still more beloved because they, Israel, had they not seen the thunder and the lightning and the mountains quaking and the sound of the horns, they would have not accepted the Torah. But this one, who saw none of these, came and surrendered to the Holy One and accepted the sovereignty of heaven. Can there be any more beloved than this? So these two midrashim, they contrast the convert to the Jewish people who were there historically in the period when God, the formation of the Jewish people. And on the one hand, that's a great privilege for the Jews that they had this amazing experience. But when you look at it from the perspective that presented here, God appreciates even more the convert who wasn't there. He didn't have that opportunity. He wasn't shown the miracles. He wasn't maybe the Jews were converting for one of the wrong reasons, right? He gave them the quail and the well springs, and they were feeling really almost you'd have to wonder if it's a kosher conversion, right? The other two types of converts were those who, which we didn't read from the Midrash, is that be a convert comes for the wrong reasons. He comes because he meets a girl he likes, or he wants to get the plenty that the Jewish people have. He wants to have their riches. So you might say that even the Jewish people's conversion is less kosher or less desired than the convert who comes later in history, because he didn't have that, didn't have the benefits. He didn't have the convincing. Even without the convincing, his conviction is so strong. It's called L'Shem Shamayim. He comes clearly for, as it said at the beginning, in the name of God. And so this is, both these midrashim are based on the idea that, of course, convert who converts today, yesterday, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, it's not 3,000 years ago. It's not when the Jewish people were coming out of Egypt. He was not there. More famous, I think, is the opposite approach. The opposite approach appears in the Gemara on Shabbat. I hear it translated here into English, and it's also Gemara in Shavuot. And this is a little bit of a tricky concepts to deal with, but the Talmud deals with them, and it goes like this. Once upon a time, the Garden of Eden, going back to Bereshit chapter 2 actually, there was a snake who tried to entice the woman. Our sages have an interpretation that the snake actually was jealous of Adam, and he didn't want her to sleep with him. The snake wanted Eve, Chava, to sleep with him, with the snake. And according to one of the midrashim, she actually did. You ever heard that before? That's weird. But without getting into the details, the Gemara says as follows: when the serpent came upon Eve, it cast impurity into her. Snake represents impurity. Snake represents evil. It was the enticing evil Yetzer Hara. So it sounds like that the entire humanity has in them some snake-like qualities. From that moment, from the, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but from the inception of humanity, it's almost similar to, there's like the original sin. The original sin in the Christianity, they have this idea that everybody is born with the sin after the fall, the great fall. So this is not really, it's obviously connected with the same sin, but here it's like a metaphysical impurity which is cast upon all of humanity. And until today, essentially, everybody has this impurity in them, except for Am Yisrael. Continuing to read in the Midrash. Israel, who stood at Mount Sinai, their impurity ceased. The revelation at Sinai was so powerful. We talked about the mikvah before Sinai, but the very revelation of God wiped them clean, wiped their souls clean of this metaphysical impurity. And so the Jewish people are the only ones in humanity which actually are cleansed from the impurity. The zohama is the Hebrew word. The zohama means like filth that the nachash, that the primordial serpent contaminated Adam with, and therefore or Chava and all of her descendants. Somehow all of humanity became contaminated with the zohama, and Israel got out of it, but the nations did not. And the idol worshippers who did not stand at Mount Sinai, their impurity did not cease. So here, this is, if we talk about essentialism, the other day we mentioned, might be two approaches, Rabbi Yehuda Levi, saying how there's a Jewish soul, and only a convert who doesn't have a Jewish soul can't become a prophet. The Rambam was more on the side of it's a question of beliefs and commitment and keeping the mitzvot and believing in one God. Whoever accepts for himself the morality of the Jewish people. Here, this is essentially, it's almost biological or metaphysical, if not physical, that all the other nations, they have this inherent flaw, which the Jewish people also had. So it sounds a little bit less racist that way, because we were all tainted. And what saved us, quote unquote, to be careful with my language here, but what elevated the Jewish people from that taintedness was the revelation at Sinai, the Sinai experience, where Hashem cleansed us. Hashem cleansed us, and so. But of course, the question is, what about the rest of the people? The rest of the people, well, here they call them idol worshipers. So you could say, well, somebody who doesn't worship idols is already cleansing himself. And, maybe we talked about that in the future days, maybe everybody will be elevated a little bit further along the path towards the true belief in God. And that's like a process of purity. But the Gemara asked, Rabbi Acha, the son of Rava, said to Rav Ashi, what about the converts? Converts, they're Jews. But they were not at Sinai. They didn't have that revelation. So their souls are tainted, if you will. Like perhaps Rabbi Yehuda of Levi was saying. But based on this Gemara, this is a question to your thesis. Your thesis is that all the Jews don't have this filth, this contamination from the snake. And the answer, Rav Ashi answered to him, even though they themselves were not there, their spiritual destiny or their mazal was there. Inu lo havu, mazlayu havu. Some ways, the converts, the future converts, even thousands of years later, someone converts, he was at Har Sinai. Physically, he was not. His descendants were not. His mother and father and their descendants were not there. But somehow, every person has not only their biology, but they have their spirituality. They have their spiritual sides, their nefesh, ruach, neshama. The mazal here is the term is used. Somehow their spiritual, the translation here says their spiritual destiny or their spiritual essence was at Har Sinai, as he quotes the Sefer Dvarim, when Moshe, it's actually a different covenant, but the proof is from Parashat Nitzavim, those who are standing with us today before the Lord, and those who are not here with us. So even those who are not physically with us, there is a concept of a covenant with somebody who's not physically there, and that's the concept of the Jewish people. So whoever joins the Jewish people, their mazal was part of the Jewish people at the time of the revelation. So as opposed to the first two Midrashim, this Gemara seems to indicate that it's not true that the Gerim were not there. They were there. Of course, not all the Jewish people were there, but the original predecessors, the progenitors of the Jewish people were there. The Jewish people who left Egypt, and of course, the Jewish people forever after are their descendants. Well, the converts also are their progenitors, their mazal, their spiritual predecessor was at Har Sinai, and so the converts are also considered to be pure, without the zohama, without that filth which the serpent cast upon Eve. And of course, this is also echoed later on in the Zohar, as you can see at the bottom of your page. All the souls that are destined to be converted in Israel actually were standing on Har Sinai. And I think I mentioned to you the other day, phrase appears a number of times in the Talmud, Ger haba litgayer, ger hamitgayer. Many people ask, it should be Goy hamitgayer, or a non-Jew who wants to convert. Why does it say a convert who converts? Based on this Gemara, it makes sense. They're already a convert. If somebody succeeds in converting, it must show us that they were already a convert, that their souls were at Sinai. And as a matter of fact, it's not just a pretty idea, which maybe, I don't know which makes you feel better if you're a convert, that you were there at Sinai or that you weren't there at Sinai. God cherishes so much. I remember that deer and those are the people that they didn't have the bells and whistles. They didn't have the miracles, and they didn't have the seducing. They didn't have all the gifts from God, and yet they come because it shows their dedication. Wow, such appreciation. This appreciation is, from another angle, it says you were there. You were always part It's a very different feelings, different experience as a ger. As I said, both sides are in our tradition. In any case, there's a halachic ramification because it's actually a difficult question. I didn't bring all the sources for today. But as we know, every day, every morning, every Jew is supposed to wake up and say Birkot HaShachar. Birkot HaShachar include we say Al Netilat Yadayim, and then after the bracha Asher Yatzareft, going to the bathroom, Elokai Neshama Shenatata Bi Tehorahi. Perhaps that's an interesting statement. The soul that you gave me is pure. This Midrash was talking about, do you have a pure soul or not? But the Gemara answers. So obviously the Gemara says that even if they were not physically at Har Sinai, or their progenitors were not at Har Sinai, their mazal was. So we speak about this. And then we have a list of 15 brachot. And the standard tradition is, it's based on the passage in the Talmud. Some manuscripts have different versions. It's a fascinating topic. Some of the hardest blessings to deal with in the modern era. And of course, I'm referring to the threesome, the three blessings. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shelo asani goy. Baruch atah Hashem shelo asani avet. Baruch atah Hashem shelo asani isha. Obviously, instead of avet, the women say shivcha. And instead of saying shelo asani goy, they say shelo asani goya. And instead of shelo asani isha, what do women say? Shasani kirtzona, who made me according to will. It's a striking difference between men and women, gender roles, and it's a big hot topic in the 21st century. We're not going to deal with it right now. The bracha of Shelo Asani Isha. My father-in-law is a big Talmid Chacham. Once he learned that his wife took offense from that bracha, he stopped saying it. That's one attitude. Other rabbis have written articles that we should all change the bracha. Instead of saying Shelo Asani Isa, we should all say Asani Yisrael, or there's the positive. We can all say Shasani Kirtzono, that he made me as his will. Anyways, I'm not going to deal with the issue of women's issues now. The standard is, most people assume that it refers to, just the quick answer is that it refers to the number of mitzvot we're chayav, because men have more mitzvot. So we're happy that we're a man, and the women, of course, have many mitzvot, which are special to them, and maybe even being created as his will is even a compliment, is even a higher level than just, the negative formulation of the blessing. But the blessing we're dealing with now is Shelo Asani Goy. So as I said, some people, there are texts which reach Asani Yisrael. And of course, playing with the Siddur and changing things, I mentioned before that there's some people do it. It's very problematic. We generally don't mess with tradition. We don't make any changes in the Siddur. If we have a problem with what it means, we don't identify. So we're interpreting religion. We prefer to interpret it away, and to as I explained to you before, that Shelo Asani Isha doesn't mean that women are bad or anything. It's just that I'm happy that I have more mitzvot and so forth. This is an interpretation. In any case, for Shelo Asani Goy, the question is, and this was dealt with poskim throughout the generations, can a convert say this bracha? Literally, the language, the standard formulation is, blessed are you, Lord God, Master of the universe, who did not make me a non-Jew. Now, if you're converting, then you were a non-Jew. And how did you become Jewish? You made yourself Jewish. Haiti made you Jewish. You made the choice, and you went through the process. So not only did you were not made into a Jew, you were not. You made yourself into a Jew. So even if you want to say Asani Yisrael, that would be problematic. If you want to say that the flip side of I did not make me a non-Jew is that you made me an Israelite. Well, he didn't make you an Israelite either. You made yourself an Israelite. So what does the convert say in his morning blessings? Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shelo asani goy. So there are different opinions, believe it or not. You ever heard of that? There's a machloket. Some poskim say that you should skip it out. You should not say it. Because you can't say that you didn't make me a goy. You made me a goy. Others say, well, I suggested this once to one of my students. I think he did it for a while. Of course, in public, it's a whole nother question. If you're the Chazan, Shat Hashem, you'll be so well versed in Hebrew that you're able to be the Chazan and saying the brachot out loud. Not every community says the brachot out loud, but if you do say the brachot out loud, obviously you shouldn't change things for the community and publicly make a difference. So there's allowances for that if you're the Chazan to say the regular formulation. But one suggestion was Shelo asani goy kegoyei aratzot. Didn't make me a heathen like all the other nations, which is a phrase which is used from our tradition, that there's a regular goy and then there's another kind of goy. So you're saying you didn't make me that kind of goy that stayed a goy. So you and you're actually saying the words Baruch Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shelo asani goy, just like every other Jew. You add a few words to make it a little more precise. Didn't make me a goy, just like all the others. Because you made me with such a spirit that I'm going to convert. But for many people, that's still not enough. And it's actually quite confusing. When someone's studying for conversion, usually we tell them to prepare. You got to practice. How do you practice? You say the regular text, like you're a Jew. And so most people are saying all the prayers, and including the blessings. And unless they're told otherwise by their rabbis, they're going to be saying this blessing. And I think it is the most common approach today, is that Gerim, if they do ask, they're told, say the bracha like everybody else. Because once you're a Jew, we saw that last time, and the Rambam was very strong in his letters to Ovadia, that you can say all the prayers, right? The God of our fathers, my God and the God of my fathers, and who chose us and took us out of Egypt. You can say all that because we're the convert is the descendant of Avram Avinu. And this was the conclusion we saw in the Rambam's letter to Ovadia. So this is another one of the phrases. In the end of the day, now I'm not a non-Jew, so God didn't make me a non-Jew. But and that's actually what the Ramah says. The Ramah, Rav Moshe Isserles, the famous Ashkenazi glosses on the Shulchan Aruch, he quotes this opinion, and you know what they base themselves off? How can you say you didn't make me like a goy? Because of this Gemara. That even if they weren't there, their mazal was there. Their spiritual energy was there. And so that means that they were never really just a goy. Their soul was Jewish. So God did not make you like all the other goyim. God made you with this special mazal, which was at Har Sinai. And so halacha l'maaseh, this is I think the most common is that many Gerim do say the bracha of Shelo asani goy, although there's other opinions as well. This is not a shir halacha, and ask your local Orthodox rabbi, ask your converting rabbi, what do you think, what he thinks you should do in terms of that bracha. There's another question, Rav Aviner, I saw just recently. He was asked, they write these shoot SMS, you know what that is? Questions sent. Sheilot Tshuvot, but not the standard snail mail, like the good old-fashioned, you'd send a letter to the rabbi and wait a few months till you got it back, and it was sent by boat in, communities or big questions. This is, nowadays we have this quick media, so there's an entire world. There's actually a rabbi I know published a book composed totally of SMSs, of these short messages, which questions and answers which he got. A lot of Torah, and it's amazing. There's so much access people can ask. They might be asking too much. You might not know how to think for yourself, or to know how to decide things for yourself. If you have every moment, whatever question you have, you just ask the rabbi. So there's a little balance that we have to have. But in any case, Rav Aviner was asked, can we sing the song Vishavu vanim ligvulam. When a convert converts. Shavu vanim ligvulam. It's a popular song. Here in Mount Sinai, we sing it a lot of time. When people come back, it means that the children should come back to their borders. And we're thinking about the Jewish people coming back to the borders of the land of Israel. And so whoever makes Aliyah, we sing for them. It's actually the name of our WhatsApp group. If you've ever noticed, in Mount Sinai, there's a English department WhatsApp group. And the title is Vishavu Vanim Ligvulam. We're all Jews coming back to our borders, physical borders of being in, making Aliyah, coming to Israel. Also spiritually, we're coming back to our heritage. Many people grew up not religious. And we have conversion candidates as well. Many people are converting. I think it's unique. In all of the world, I don't know of any other program which has integrated converts together with Bali Tshuva in a full-time yeshiva program. It's really, I believe, a wonderful opportunity for those who can come. Otherwise, you have a conversion course a couple times a week in an afternoon. It's not the same thing as being in a yeshiva. It's an amazing opportunity. So, Shavu vanim ligvulam, does that apply to the converts? The children will return to their border. It wasn't their border. They're not the children, at least not biologically. And Rabbi Menachem brought this Gemara, and he said, well, if they weren't at Har Sinai, then their mazal was. They were. The very fact that they're converting in the end, that retroactively shows us that they were special souls that were part of the Jewish people at Sinai. And therefore, he said, by all means, we can sing that song, V'shavu vanim ligvulam, and it's a perfect title for the WhatsApp group, which includes also born Jews and converting Jews, and we're all part of a process of returning to our borders. Okay, the last thought I would like to share with you is that if we're going back to the conversion at Sinai, there's an interesting debate we won't cover in any stretch of the imagination right now, and that is the question: is there a mitzvah to convert someone? Or it's for the Beit Din, for the rabbis. Surely there's a mitzvah to help someone. Someone wants to become Jewish, you want to help them. It's a nice thing to help someone. But is there any mitzvah to come? Is a mitzvah to put on tefillin in the morning? Is a mitzvah to learn Torah? Is a mitzvah to say Shema? Is there a mitzvah to sit on a Beit Din that converts people? It's a very interesting question. It's not clear. So, and if there is, where does it come from? Which one of the 613 does that? What rubric does it fall under? So there's a famous commenter of Yerucham Perla who wrote a commentary on the Sefer Mitzvot Gadol. It's an ancient list of mitzvot. Everybody knows about the Rambam Sefer Mitzvot, but there's also another one called Sefer Mitzvot Gadol. And Rabbi Yerucham Perla was a great Talmud Chacham from 100 years ago, 150 years ago, and he writes in his comments there about this issue. He writes because the Smug says that that it is a mitzvah to accept converts. There's a Gemara that says if someone is converting and you ask him, "Are you serious?" You ascertain that they're purely motivated and that they know what they're doing, and they want it anyways. And says, you do it right away. We do the circumcision right away, and you dunk them in the mikvah right away. Why right away? The Gemara asks, Shuhi mitzvah, lo mashinan. We don't tarry. When it comes to mitzvah, we try to do them as quickly as possible. And so therefore, the Gemara terms converting someone as a mitzvah. It's not clear. Is it the mitzvah on the person converting or the person who's adjudicating the conversion? In any case, there, Rabbi Yerucham Perla says, sure, it's a mitzvah. You know why? Because it's a mitzvah to love God. And if you love God, then you want God's name to be loved by other people. You want God's name to be spread among the world. It says that this is an attribute of Avraham Avinu, that he made the word of God beloved upon all of the world. I'll just say the last point, and then I'll take your question in a second. There's one other approach about why it might be a mitzvah to convert someone, to actively assist someone in their conversion process. And this goes back to our theme of today of Har Sinai. Imitatio Dei. We spoke about it in one of our classes. This is the Latin term for imitating God. It is a mitzvah in the Torah. One of the mitzvot in the Torah. We're supposed to walk in his ways. V'halachta bidrachav. The Rambam's Hilchot Deot has a very small number of mitzvot. At the beginning of each halacha, he says where this mitzvah, which mitzvot he's going to cover in this topic. And in Hilchot Deot, which speak about how to behave, proper behavior, conduct in the world, he says that this mitzvah teaches us so much. As the Gemara says, in two different places, two different formulations, it says that Mahu chanun, afata he chanun. Mahu rachum, afata he rachum. Just like he is merciful, so should you be merciful. Just like he is compassionate, so should you be compassionate. There's another Gemara that says that, well, it's not about the feelings, but it's about the actions. Well, just like he was mivaker cholim, just like he visited the sick, you should visit the sick. Where did God visit the sick? Abraham. Just like he kover metim, afata kvar metim. Where did God bury the dead? Moshe Rabbeinu. So these are two midrashim. Bottom line is, the mitzvah is v'halachta bidrachav. You should walk in his ways. We try to learn from the Torah the ways of God. Of course, we all know the 13 attributes of mercy. And going back to our topic at hand, Hashem showed us the way. Not only was he mevaker cholim and kover metim, he's also converted the Jewish people. Har Sinai, we said, is the foundation of all the stages of conversion. So God decided to convert us. So we should walk in his ways. And of course, if someone goes through the process and we ask them, just like Shemot 19, it's coming up, next week's parsha. He asks us, this week's parsha, excuse me. Or in Mishalach, Yitro. It's in Yitro. It's after Mishalach. He says, he could have just come and gave us the Torah. He says the Jewish people came to Sinai at the beginning of the third month. And then he sends Moshe back and forth to look, analyze that chapter in depth. But God could have just appeared to them and said, no, I want them. First of all, they have to accept it upon themselves. Now they're free people. They came out of Egypt. They have free will. Give them the deal. You're going to be a special nation to me from all the other nations. Do you accept it or not? And Jewish people said, yeah, whatever God says we will do. They accepted it. So he tells them, okay, get ready. Wash your clothes. Go to the mikvah. Separate from your wives. And then be ready for the third day. Ends up to be an extra day. That's a whole nother Gemara and Shabbat. In any case, Hashem, what was he doing there? He was accepting us as converts. He was converting the Jewish people. So if Hashem is so good, was so good to us, to make us his chosen nation, it makes sense that each and every one of us, the Jewish people, has a mitzvah, to follow, to imitate his ways. If Hashem is converting the Jewish people, so then we should also aid and abet a ger hamidgayer, a ger who wants to convert. So just to recap, the more traditional understanding is what I said at the end, the Gemara in Shabbat. It says that all of the Gerim were at Har Sinai. Their souls were at Har Sinai. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to convert. And somehow this was a corrective for the zuhama, some filth which came into the world when the serpent came upon Eve. But and that, as I said, that's one reason why they can say Shelo Asani Goy, because anybody that eventually converts, essentially, he was part of the Jewish people at Sinai, at least, even if though biologically right now you can't trace it. through his biological mothers and fathers, his soul can be traced back to a soul that was at Sinai. The first approach, no less powerful in my opinion, and that is that we have to show the convert is so beloved more than Israel. Israel accepted the Torah, sure, but we were enticed. So I said maybe even it's not a kosher conversion because we were because we wanted to get the quail and the clouds of glory, or maybe only because we were so overawed by the lightning and the thunder and the revelation of God at Sinai. If we weren't there, who knows? I've spoken to many people who say to me that, wow, if I wasn't born Jewish, I don't know if I would convert. You need to have a real sense of commitment and a real dedication to go through the process and to choose. And that's something that is so special about the convert that even because of that, he become like a Levi, even more than an average Israelite. Like the Yalkut Shimoni that we saw. Moshe Rabbeinu was a little jealous. He said, really? Convert's going to be like a Levi? I said, yes, because they came on, the convert comes of his own volition. He's considered in my eyes as a native-born Jew and even like a Levi. As I said, either way you look at it, the convert comes out on top from either angle, both approaches. But that's what I wanted to share in honor of Matan Torah in this week's Parsha B'ezrat Hashem. And I'll take the questions. This is assuming that the Levi has a special status. That's what the Midrash is trying to say, that the convert has that special status. It's not a practical change right now. The Levim don't even get their Ma'aser Rishon. They don't deserve it. What do? Maybe if they're lucky, they go up and they wash the Kohen's hands once a day. But that's not worthy of getting 10th of our produce. So so there's no real practical ramifications of becoming a Levi today. So I don't think that's, if you're having any ideas, after I convert, I'm going to go and wash the hands of the Kohen. No, I wouldn't give you that psak. Even though, according to the Midrash in Yalkut Shimoni, you might have a thought. And generally, that's it's not halacha l'maisa. It's an idea. Sorry. Also, second aliyah, same thing. No, if you can get it by the gabbai and the rabbi of the shul, go for it. But I think that's a stretch. I don't think that's what the midrash meant. We're not learning the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch here. We're learning a midrash is telling us how beloved the convert is. It's not about halacha l'maaseh. Benjamin, you wanted to add something? Yeah, you forgot. You didn't forget. Please tell us. Share. Oh, yes. Maybe after class. Okay. Thank you.